Hello, I'm Garth Lobban of Atlona. Today in the Hub, we're broadcasting live from the offices of Imago Sonas here in Denmark. I want to thank Brian, Mads, and Morten for their hospitality here at Imago Sonas, our distributor here in Denmark. Today on the Hub, we're going to be talking about wireless presentation systems, their deployment, best practices. And joining me here in the Hub is Marshall Simmons, Product Manager of Atlona, Mads Nørskov, CEO of Imago Sonas, and Wayne Fulton, Sales Executive of ITRG Secure. You can join in on the conversation as well by posting a comment here on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. Hope you get a chance to join in and be a part of the panel. So let's go ahead and meet our guests. As I mentioned, Marshall Simmons is product manager here for BYOD at Atlona. He's responsible for delivering and maintaining next generation of Atlona products through collaborations with teams, with engineering, professional services, marketing, and sales. Marshall has been in the pro AV industry for over 16 years, including the past 6 at Atlona. With experience such as commercial AV programming, project manager, and software engineering. I know this gig keeps you really busy, Marshall, and I hope to hear quite a bit about it today. How are you doing today?
Doing great, Garth. How are you? Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
I'm doing okay. It's a little unusual for me to be here. I'm at 4 p.m. here in Copenhagen. I'm used to doing this thing at first thing in the morning in the West Coast. So we'll see how well I'm holding up.
Just keep drinking the coffee. Right?
There you go. Speaking of holding up, when you're not working on all these projects, what keeps you busy? I understand you're doing some 3D printing and things like that as well.
Yeah, it's one of my hobbies. I really like 3D printing and tinkering with electronics. It's just a really amazing community, and there's just some really interesting projects out there. It's very kind of exciting that we're in this time where we can just take a 3D printer relatively cheap and build something and throw a little bit of electronics in it and just create something that's just completely new and original. And it's amazing to be able to bring my kid or his friends in and let them see the process of being able to build something like a toy, and then being able to hand it to them and let them play with it and paint it. And just, I mean, it really is just a very fun hobby. It can be frustrating sometimes, but it's a very fun hobby.
I imagine it won't be long before you're 3D printing new product ideas. So we'll see how that goes.
There, yeah.
Cool. Well, let's move on to Wayne Fulton, and I've got to read this because he is a recently retired public school IT director, and he brings 35 years of experience to ITRG Secure. Wayne holds a BA in music education from Arkansas Tech University, and in 1994, a little-known technology called the Internet came onto the scene, and Wayne was hooked. So from there, he went on through the ranks in the public school and then went on to be technical specialist, assistant technology director, and eventually director of technology before retiring in 2022. Good morning, Wayne. How are you today?
Good morning, Garth. You just made me lose a few more hairs here. The age here. Gee, thanks a lot, man. Thank you, buddy. Yeah, well, but no, it's great. Thank you for inviting me. We appreciate it.
Yeah, that's great. It's you bring a varied background, and it's so important right now. IT within the educational space, you've got a lot to share there, and I'm sure ITRG is just happy to have you because that's invaluable.
I appreciate that, Garth. Yes, I'm pleased to be here. I've been a customer for ITRG before I came on board with them as an IT director for about 10 plus years. They were primarily a IT recycling company, R2 certified. And for 10 plus years, we're going in a different direction right now. And they brought me on board. They said, "No, you're not retiring, Wayne. You're not retiring. No, you can join us." And so it was at a conference in Dallas. I met the CEO stopped me. She had a booth there and said, No, I want you on my team, Wayne. I want you on my team. But I want to retire. No, I want you on my team, Wayne. You
I
want
want to
to be. So
retire.
it was one of those things, and I'm pleased to be here. I'm just having a blast. Of course, I'm new to sales and all that.
Mhm.
I'm learning so much every day. I got the best boss. I learn from her every day about this industry. I mean, really, the last private sector business I worked at was the video rental store in Russellville, Arkansas. You know, and before then, it's always been public ad. 35 years of public ad. So I'm
Yeah.
happy to be back in the private sector. Got lots to learn. Got lots to catch up on. You know, because I've been out of it for 35 years, but I'm having a
Wow.
blast and loving it.
That's great. That's
Yeah.
great. Well, let's bring on our third guest who's actually just down the hallway from me here.
Mhm.
For 12 years, my next guest, Mads Nørskov, and his fellow partners have overseen Imago Sonas here in Harlu, just outside of Copenhagen. They've been one of the best allies that you could hope for a company like Atlona. When he's not working, you'll find him skiing or running, and I understand he goes to a lot of concerts, so I want to find out a little bit more about that. Good morning, actually. Good afternoon, Mads. Let's get the time zone correct. Oh, now we can't hear you. Can't hear you, my friend.
Technical difficulties.
Yeah.
Here we go again.
There you go.
Yeah.
Nice.
Perfect.
That's good. We don't make a living of working with technical equipment, but here we go. No, I just said, well, it's not very often that I have a chance to say both good afternoon and good night to you, Garth, in 2 days.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
It was a very
Yeah.
long day with you and our colleagues here at the EMEA Summit in Copenhagen.
Yeah.
Just a wonderful town to host that in. Great hospitality. We had our colleagues in from Sweden, Finland, as well as here in Denmark. It was just a great experience. So yeah, we spent almost as much time here as we have spent at trade shows where you and I first met
Exactly.
back
Exactly.
in, oh my gosh, 8 years ago. 8 years ago, at my
Yeah.
first ISC is when I met you.
Yeah, that's right. Well, we had a lot of good talks since then, and it's
Hmm.
correct that we have been with Atlona actually for 12 years, the same time, the same amount of years as Imago Sonas have been in the industry, and I've been working with distribution for almost 20 years, and always been keen on giving our dealers added value. So that's what we are. We are an added value distributor, and it's been a fun ride to been with Atlona since the start. 1,200 part numbers and a big printed catalog. So a lot have changed since that. So that was
Absolutely.
component matrix and etc. But that's right. In my spare time, I like to both ski and run together with my kids. And now they have grown up, so we also go out and go to concerts together. Eventually, because of COVID, most of the concerts I've seen the last year, you probably won't know anybody of those because most of them have been Danish.
Mhm.
But we had a chance to watch actually Dua Lipa when we went to London with my daughter and had a great concert there. And of course, since I've been in this industry for so many years, I also enjoy watching the lightning and hear the great audio. So that's a part of my joy as well. And my kids love that as well. They always say, "Dad, is it good speakers?"
Well, that's one of the magic things about being in this industry, and we can't help but corrupt our children in our own image. So of course, we take them to the concerts that we enjoy going to, and then after a while, you start going to the concerts that they want to go to, and they're introducing you to new music, and that's one of the things
Yeah,
that I've enjoyed. And yeah, the
yeah,
sound and the lighting, and they watch that. Do you do that, Dad?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Adjacent.
yeah, yeah,
I do
yeah, yeah.
adjacent.
Jason.
That's right. But
Well,
I'm also excited to be here and
mhm.
very thrilled to be to ask to join. And I'm glad that we can host it from our office.
It's been magic, and this is a
Mm.
great panel here today because of the background that we have here in education, corporate sales, as well as product management. And I think a great place to start is talking a little bit about some of those wireless presentation systems. We have a couple of different flavors of that here at Atlona, and I can't think of anyone else better than Marshall to kind of give us a kind of quick overview of wireless presentations systems here at Atlona. Take it away, my friend.
Yeah, absolutely. So Atlona has been providing wireless presentation systems since 2017. We first introduced the SW510, which is a multi-format presentation switcher with built-in wireless presentation functionality. One of the problems we, of course, saw in the market back then, and we still do today, is having it integrated allows the actual entire holistic system to know when there's an active stream or when there isn't an active stream. So it allowed for really dynamic auto switching and automatic display control. We moved on from the SW510. We upgraded it to the OME MS52. We saw a lot of feedback from end users where they would like to have USB peripherals presented at the connection. So we upgraded it. We now support USB transport over HD-base-T. And what that essentially allows is we have, for example, a USB-C port on the MS52 that will provide 60 watts of charging, HDMI, audio, video, and data. So if you had a USB camera, a speakerphone connected to the system, and you plug it in, it'll be one wire that will do all of that for you. We have additional USB-B ports on it, so if you're plugging in old school DisplayPort HDMI, you can still have the ability to get all those USB peripherals. But lately, we've really been focused on the Wave 101s that was recently launched, late 2021. We've really been focusing on the Wave. The Wave really allows us to have some very interesting features that we've been seeing some struggles in the market, a lot of customer feedback. We have things like dynamic layout, for example, which what we do is we try to optimize when multiple people are simultaneously streaming to the Wave, the best way to show it to the end user, right?
Mhm.
So a lot of systems of the past, they would just, for example, if you had two wireless streams coming in, say one desktop and say an iPhone, for example, it would just split the screen in half, right? So then you have a really tiny, you have a really tiny Windows desktop, and then you have a really big iPhone desktop. So what we decided to do instead was actually take a look at the DPI of the system coming in, the aspect ratio, the type of device, whether it's coming from a desktop, a tablet, a mobile phone, and we run that through our patent pending algorithm, and we make a determination of how best to show that on the HDMI output. So
Mhm.
in that scenario I just gave you, essentially what we would do is we'll say, okay, well, this is a Windows desktop coming in. Typically the DPI is lower, the resolution is higher, it's going to be harder to be legible for the end user. So we would, for example, give that desktop 80% of the real estate on the screen. And then we say something like an iPhone has a pretty high DPI. It does have a high resolution, but it has a high DPI as well. We'll give it 20%. And what that does is it allows the end user to actually feel more confident and more capable with having multiple simultaneous streams going on at the same time,
Mhm.
because both of them are legible at the same time and they're not having to make sacrifices there.
Right. Now, see,
Mhm.
Mads, you've been with us through all of those innovations, throughout the years,
Hmm.
as you mentioned, 12 years. Tell us a little bit about all the rest of the items, that you bring in at Imago Sonas. For example, you've got quite a bit of the mix here at Imago
Hmm.
Sonas. How does that fit in, and what does your market look like here in Denmark for these kinds of systems?
For the Wave, I see one of the benefits with the Wave is that you can actually do what we call, I call it a retrofit installation, because it can fit into any kind of installation that you already have. There's no need for big change in the setup. You have the HDMI output, and most installation today they have an HDMI input. So it's very easy to take an old school installation and make it like up to date 2022. And it's quite unique because the Wave is so small, so it has a very small footprint, so it can fit in anywhere. And that's one of the big advantages that I see of Wave, and also that the setup is so easy. It's very intuitive. It's very easy to anybody to adapt into. So I really like that.
Hmm. And Wade, how about you in the education space? Tell us a little bit about ITRG Secure and all of the products and services that you handle there, and how does this fit into that mix?
Basically, we provide AV and IT solutions and also school security solutions. Our main customers are K-12 public schools and charter schools and a few private schools here and there. The wave today, education is all about collaboration, and the wave is the perfect tool for that.
Mhm.
I mean, back in the old days, when you had the teacher standing in front of the chalkboard, some of you probably remember that. And the kids were all in a single file row,
Mhm.
one each other, all ready, they're eager to learn. Those days are over with. Kids this is their life right now. And they live and breathe this stuff, okay?
It is, yeah.
And it's just the ability to share presentations with any platform, whether it be an iPhone, a Windows laptop, or a Chromebook.
Mhm.
In the education environment, that's powerful. And we're proud to be a partner with Atlona. I have to confess, I never heard of Atlona until I came on board to ITRG Secure.
Mhm.
Yeah, I plead guilty. I've never really heard of it, okay? Until my first day at work, there was a Wave 101 in a box sitting at my desk, like, what is this? And so I took it, unboxed it, hooked it up, and gentlemen, I was hooked. I said, this is a powerful tool. And my passion and my job from day one with this company is to do my best to get this product in the classroom because I see the power in it.
Mhm.
It's phenomenal.
Well,
The
that's a
ones
really
we have, yeah, it's just phenomenal. The teachers we have introduced to it says, when can I get one?
Mhm. Well,
But,
that's
yeah,
actually a good jumping off point because
yeah.
as you're focused on the education space, obviously,
Mm.
with your years of experience, and now you've got this product in your hand. If we
Mm.
go back up a couple of thousand feet and talk about what are the concerns in the education space when you're implementing a wireless presentation device? You mentioned, this is their life. The kids
Mm.
and everything is on their handhelds. Maybe they've
Mm.
been issued a tablet. Maybe they've been issued a Chromebook. How do you see that implementation blend in with the learning that's already taking place? Is it a whole new type of learning that you have to now encourage instructors, teachers to use? Or what are some of the questions and issues that you're dealing with wireless presentation in the classroom?
I think one of the big things is, as far as wireless presentations, the key is the teacher to become untethered to get rid of that HDMI cable, basically.
Okay. Hmm.
Teachers need to come out from underneath their desk, away from their desk, and start walking around the classroom with their laptops,
Okay.
monitoring students, engaging students. That's a huge, powerful thing right now, just the untethering capability of it. Too many days, in the old days, you had a desktop computer on the teacher's desk,
Hmm.
wired in with VGA, probably an audio cable or so, and they're stuck at that desk trying to give instructions to their
Right.
students while the students in the back are totally unengaged because the teacher's stuck at their desk.
Hmm.
Here, now everything is now laptops, tablets in the school environment. And that teacher now has the power to walk around with their laptop or their tablet,
Hmm.
throw up a presentation on the screen. Oh, little Johnny, I love what you have on your Chromebook here, what you're sharing here. Let me give you access to share that on the screen and share with the classroom as well. Oh,
Hmm.
little Susie, I like what you have right here. Let's see what you have. Share on the document. Let me give you access. That alone is very powerful in a classroom.
Right.
It's just the collaborative environment, the ability for the teacher to control that collaboration. You got to control it. You have to. You don't
Hmm.
want kids just throwing all kinds of stuff
Yeah.
on the screen.
Hmm.
Who knows what they'll throw up?
Yeah.
And
Well,
so,
let me ask you this. What is
yes,
that? You came up with a great scenario. We're untethering the instructor, right?
mhm, yes.
But there's also the aspect of having the students share their work. What do you think the ratio is for a wireless presentation system use in a classroom? What's the ratio of the teachers using the wireless as opposed to staying at their desk and wired and bringing in students, or the students being the primary use? What do you think is it like a 60-40 split, teacher versus the students, or somewhere else?
If it is a teacher who's truly engaged with student, it needs to be about 60-40 at least,
Okay.
because you
Okay.
want those teachers involved in their learning. You want them involved. You want this all interactive. That's the key here, is engaging students, get them involved with education. Again, the days of sitting there taking notes while the teacher writes on the chalkboard are long gone. They're long gone. It doesn't engage students. It doesn't work. And so you want those teachers, every school administrator will tell you, you want those kids hands-on and involved throughout the entire class period or school day.
Got it.
You just want that.
So let's flip this over to the corporate space. So Mads, when you're looking at wireless presentation systems and you and your team are building the designs here at Imago Sonas, how are you implementing that in the corporate space, and what are some of the key applications for wireless presentation in the corporate space?
Well, I definitely see a change now, because until recently, most of the wireless presentation, tools you have is actually just something that replaces the cable. So you have a cable you connected in. Now you had something else you could connect to your computer, but it's only like a one-man's job. He is still the one with the connection that holds the presentations. So I see a change now, and we might be a little bit slow in Denmark, but I can see that people are, when we show them that they can actually engage in a way, so that the wireless sharing is now a tool, it's a collaboration tool, instead of just having a signal from your laptop to the screen. I see people get excited about that. So this is where we tell the story in Denmark now. We go to our dealers, we make sure the dealers tell their customers that you want to go from have one presenter to have some people that actually work together. So and then it's much more powerful, much better meetings that everybody just can jump in and say, hey, I have this great idea. Can I share it? Oh yeah, give me the cable. No, I want to see that the other guys is what they have, what they believe in, and then you can see it. And I think that's a big value, and that's the big change we see now in wireless sharing. And I think, yeah, we're very excited about that, and so is our customers.
So you bring up the use of it in the office space and opening eyes and that sort of thing, but it also sounds like there's a lot of opportunity for not just building it into the system, but then going back and adding wireless presentation into existing systems. I probably should. This is critical in the education space because they don't have a big budget to be completely ripping out the system again. They've got to look to ways that they can make that system evergreen and adding on to it. So between the two of you, either one of you, adding on versus building it in the first place, what do you think that mix is for wireless presentation systems?
Well, I think in the education world, adding it on is really the only solution. I mean, Garth, you said school tech budgets or school budgets are limited, very limited. And this provides a cost-effective solution to adding on to an already existing infrastructure, which is, again, is very powerful. You don't have to go ahead and reconfigure anything. What really impressed me with this device when I first powered it up, there's an IP address to connect to it. Picked up a DHCP address. I could log in with that, with instructor mode, what have you. There's instructions. If I have a Chromebook, how to connect to it. If I have a Windows, how to connect to it. I mean, that was just ingenious to add that. It really was. And to your novice teacher who's not tech savvy, they can easily follow that. And so that is a huge, huge selling point in the product. I mean, we've had the school districts we have introduced this to, they love that. They love that. And again, it's definitely an add-on because schools they just don't have the funding and the resources. I see with my customers, Tylene chiming in. Hi,
Tylene, thanks for chiming in. That's great.
One of my customers, a great lady from Pflugerville ISD, giving her a shout out there. It's just schools just do not have the funding to go out and refresh a network every 3 to 5 years. They just don't have it.
So how about you, Mads, in the corporate space?
Well, what we see now is that everybody that is building new or doing new construction, they will add a wireless solution. Of course, that's that's mandatory. But we also have a lot of upgrade. People that would like to upgrade existing solutions. They wanna get rid of the cables, and that's usually the first way we get in is they want to get rid of the cable, and then that we actually show them that they can exchange the cable with a collaboration tool. They think that's great, and you know what? And it's actually cheaper to put in a collaboration tool today, because let's say you have like 30 meters from it might not be that long from the desk to the screen, but if you want to hide the cable, you want to add an HDBaseT extender, and you need to go, maybe over the ceiling or under the roof, and then that extender kit is more expensive than the weight. So it's actually cheaper, and you get a better tool.
Yeah. Marshall, we should have called this product the wireless cable product. So Wayne a moment ago brought up moderator mode and making sure that the kids aren't putting up something maybe unsavory or silly. Can you give us an overview of what that welcome screen looks like that Wayne just described?
Yeah, absolutely. We can go ahead and hop into a quick demo. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So what we're looking at here, if you look at the bottom right of the screen, that is the actual HDMI output of the wave. So I have that running into my system so that we can actually see what it's doing. This is what we call the instructor page. Looking at the instructor page, this is made specifically for either an educator or somebody who wants to come in and moderate an active meeting. The main goal was to provide as many tools as possible for the user in a very simple way to be able to collaborate and manage who comes in if you need to load content. So though it looks a little straightforward, there is a lot to it. So we do have active queues. So if you would like, you could enable auto queuing. One thing you'll notice on the HDMI output is that we do let everyone know that auto queuing has been enabled. So when there's an incoming stream, essentially what happens is instead of that stream going directly to the HDMI output, it goes into this queue, right? So the teacher would be looking at this screen. They can see, hey, here's Marshall's iPhone. That's me, of course. This is what they're actively seeing, right? So we actually send the images from the cast to the instructor so they can pre-moderate. They can see what's going on. They go, okay, I want Marshall to be able to send an output to the screen, right? They can hit the play button, and what you'll see is it goes directly to the HDMI output, right? So now I'm here moderating. I'm showing what I'm doing as Marshall. Here's my presentation. And then here comes, say, Garth. I'm just going to use Garth as an example. He has his iPad, and he wants to come into the system. The teacher, of course, has the ability to moderate it. And this is also kind of a demo of how the dynamic layout works, right? So it took a look at the iPad, and it's making the assumption that the text from Safari or a presentation would be a little bit smaller on the iPad, so it gives it a little more real estate, and it pushes over the iPhone over there on the right-hand side in order to make it as legible as possible. But there's quite a few other things that the system can do, of course, right? So say the teacher has an image, say this science, and they want to do some type of this is what the brain looks, or this is what the body looks like. They can actually go on and load an image, right? And upload. Again, it's going back into queue. They can come in and hit play, right? So one of the things that we really wanted to give to, especially the education community, but this is also applicable for commercial as well. We wanted to be able to untangle a little bit of some of the things that the teacher needed to do. So if a teacher needs to play a video or to show a YouTube video or to show some images, they can load that content directly on the wave and play that content while they're walking around the room helping with students. For example, they're detangling their laptop directly from the content that's being displayed on the projector or on the display. We do have things, for example, like we do have the ability to add YouTube URLs directly into the system. You'll see here, this is one of our most recent empowering women sessions that we had. And it allows you to play and control all the different functions of the YouTube URL again, that lets the teacher play the YouTube URL and walk around the classroom, moderate, answer questions, be able to do all that stuff. She could even be, he or she, I'm sorry, it could be sitting there grading papers if they needed to catch up on a little bit of time. It, again, detangles them. We added a couple smaller things that made quality of life in here. We have things like volume control. If you have display control configured, you'd be able to turn on and off the projector or display directly from this page, right? Reducing the need for a control system. It's very easy. It's very simple to use.
So, we designed all these things as you described for, pedagogy, for teachers, for classroom use. Mads or Wayne, in the corporate world, is there a place for this? Right now you're seeing the instructor page, but this moderator mode, are there applications that you see where we want to queue up to 8 people, 4 on the screen and 4 in the queue? Is that something that comes up in your world or in your tenders?
Well, we have not seen I've not seen tenders where they need to be a queue. What we see is that there's a number of people that can share at the same time. That's usually what we see, and at the moment it's usually 4 people, because then most of the system on the market today can handle 4, and I think that's why they choose that, the AV consultants. But this that you can actually put in the queue like this is not something I have seen. But it could be. If we show this to enough consultants, they might put it in the tenders, and because it
Probably
is
ahead of the curve on that one, aren't we?
because it is a very nice feature. It is a very,
I think in the education world, you go more than 4, it gets to be a little hairy to manage it by the teacher.
Okay.
Yeah. Exactly.
And I think 4 is a good happy medium. I have not received any feedback from my customers or teachers about increasing that. But you start to get, I think, more than that. To me, as an instructor or teacher, that would be hard to manage. I think it'd be hard to manage because, you get 8 or 10 or so. 4 is a good happy medium from the feedback I've received.
Right.
Yeah.
So, Wayne, let's call on your IT background a little bit here, and I suspect you've got your opinions about something getting put on the network in general, much less a wireless presentation system. So, as we want to talk about best practices, this product has lots of ways that it can be implemented on the network, standalone. What are some of the things that you think about before we start putting in products like this on your former network?
Of course. I was in my previous job, I was a network Nazi. I get it. Yeah, they are. And tech directors and CTOs and network administrators are very touchy about that. I understand that. And I was one of those guys too. But the beauty of this that I saw that really struck a chord with me was that there's nothing to it. You're really it's just basically another device on your network that gets a DHCP address. And I think if you set up your network the right way, I mean, you may have to add, if you want to go wireless, you might have to add another SSID to your network or something like that. It doesn't require a network administrator that I see. That doesn't require a network administrator to really go and reconfigure the network or open up open up ports, adjust their firewall, anything like that. It's so simple. It's so simple. And again, I get it. School network guys are kind of, what are you putting on my network? I totally understand that. But the reality is we're in the middle of BYOD, we're every kid has one of these now. They want to get on the school network so mom and dad don't get them on data usage. They want to piggyback off the school network. The wave again, it's just so simple. It's just like another device.
How about you, Mads, in the corporate world? How are these things being implemented in terms of the network infrastructure there, or any issues at all?
Well, we have seen that we always have the same issues as we just talked about. That they go, oh no, are you crazy? Everybody can see what everybody is sharing, and it's gonna be a big disaster, and you're gonna the printers will stop working and computers will fail. So that's the same thing we see. But I also see that if you if there is if you meet one of those IT guys that really don't want to have AV on your network, it's talk to them, explain what you're doing, that show them the manual, show them what needs to be done if you need to do anything, and make sure that all these things are in line, and then they actually figure out that, okay, no one will be hurt, and it's just like adding a printer or anything else wireless to the network, and that's how. But you need to take that talk, and you need sometimes you need to be soft with them, but I found out that most of the IT guys, they are really nice guys, and we make it out. But you need to take that conversation, because, of course, if the system goes down, it's their ass. Everybody will come and say, "Hey, why did you do that?" So, I fully understand, and I fully respect that, and that's what we're bringing to our dealers. Make sure you take that dialogue.
Yeah, I have to agree with Mads on that. Just have a conversation with your network administrator, your tech director, CTO. Show them the product. The product basically sells itself. And I think they'll see the value of the product. Just have that open conversation with, again, they're nice guys. They're not network Nazis, like I said. So they're not bad at all. So no, they're really nice guys, and just have that conversation with them. Show them the product. The product sells itself.
So, Marshall, you've been on the front line of this for quite some time. What are some of the questions that you're getting? I mean, bring your experience in. You've no doubt had integrators ask you questions about implementing this. What are some of the pitfalls, and maybe what are some of the best practices when it comes to implementing a wireless presentation system, whether it's built in, like the MS52W that you described before, or the 510W, or standalone like this Wave unit? What are some of the best practices that you can share with the audience?
Yeah, absolutely. So in any case, there is always some consideration to be made for network deployment on how you go about making those decisions. And I will agree with what everyone said. Engaging in the IT department has yielded the best success that you'll find. As you go forward, you need to have them on your team. There are all kinds of different, very small complications that can run in, right? So with our product line, we are able to do a lot of different things with the networking. We have the Ethernet connection directly on the back of the unit, right? We do have built-in wireless access point that allows people to connect directly to our unit, but we also have the ability to connect to a wireless network. So we can actually have up to 2 different networks at the same time on the Wave unit. You really need to engage the IT groups, because if they're unaware that you're running an access point on the Wave, that could be a little catastrophic for the channels that they're actively using on their network. We do have on our website a very easy to understand network deployment guide that goes through all the different considerations. We are working on an updated white paper that will talk about the actual Wi-Fi channeling and some of that. But you really want to just make sure that you're not being intrusive to the current IT hardware that's on the network. You want to play and be friendly with them. You don't want to use the same Wi-Fi channels. You don't want to have an open network. One thing we learned really early on is when you have a dedicated access point and it's connected to the Ethernet, one of the first things that came up was like, hey, you're connecting to the wireless, you're going to the Ethernet. There's not, there's a security thing there. So we implemented things like firewalls, right? So that you can say, okay, well, we're going to route traffic through the wireless access point to the Ethernet interface, but you can only have access to internet, or you can only have access to the internal network, and do not have access to internet, depending on how you want to deploy, or you can completely block off all traffic between the different interfaces. So as we talk to network administrators, as we get feedback for customers, we're always making small tweaks here and there to make sure that the implementation goes as smooth as possible. Because like you said, if you can boot it up, connect directly to it, and test it, that makes everyone happy, right? And so, yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think that's one of the benefits of a product like the Wave, and you've gone through many of the features and advantages that this product has, but you also touched on things that we've learned and ways that we have increasingly made it better. And that's really one of the hallmarks of a product like this. It's evergreen. We can constantly teach it new tricks. We can
Yes.
constantly add things
Mm.
to it. We can constantly respond to what customers are looking for. Well, I needed to do this. I needed to do that. I'm not going to put you on the spot, but you probably no doubt have a couple of things up your sleeve that you're planning to do when you roll out the next one. I would like to shift over to Mads here for a second because earlier we were talking about an application that he was working on where there's wireless implementation. Mads, why don't you go through that project that you were talking
Yeah,
about before we got
yeah,
on camera?
yeah. Well, we had a project with a big law company called Paul Schmidt
Hmm.
Kammeradvokaten, and then they were looking for I think it was around 100 meeting rooms, and they 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 wanted a complex solution with an ease of use, and we were contacted by Kobe, as you see in the left corner. They are a consulting house, and they do a lot of construction consulting, but they also have an AV department that
Hmm.
do AV consulting, and they have found that there might be some product from Atlona that could help them out, because Atlona has been in the front line of implementing USB in the meeting space or in the AV installation, and that was where we started. That was the thing that we should do in this case,
Hmm.
and we want to implement a lot of different things on this in these meeting rooms. There were, of course, there was a video conference solution. There was microphones. There was some kind of wireless presentation, and there was speakers.
Hmm.
And we had to do a POC to make this work, and we looked at the components, and it was very easy for us to suggest one product, because there is one key product from Atlona, the MS42.
Hmm.
So it is the heart in a very complex solution, but the POC went perfect. The end user was happy, the Kobe was happy, my team here at Imago Sonas was happy, and it turned out that this became the masterpiece in installation, and it went out as a public tender, and the installation company AVDAN, which is a big installation company here in Denmark, they won the tender, and we worked closely with them and Kobe to make this installation, and they're very happy. I'm very pleased with the solution.
Hmm.
Yeah. So this, if we talk wireless sharing, you in a solution like this, you could actually add any wireless solution because you have an HDMI input, and
Hmm.
that is one of the things that I love with the Wave, that it can go in anywhere.
Hmm.
Yeah. So that was a very nice project we did.
Yeah, and you
Yeah.
said it was something like 100 rooms. You said?
Yeah, I think it was around 100 rooms. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
That's great. So Marshall, when you're working with customers and they're putting together, tenders like this, what are some of the questions that have come up as far as usability and how do you make sure everything all works together? What are some of the challenges that integrators and designers need to think about when they're putting systems together, when they're doing an add-on like you see here?
Yeah, I mean, specifically for add-on, the biggest thing is if you want to have automated features, so things like automatic switching, automatic display control, the the add-on of the wireless BYOD can be a little cumbersome because of course the MS42 doesn't know if you're actively streaming or not. So there is some configuration and management that needs to
Hmm.
be taken place on the standalone wireless receiver, obviously, to make sure
Hmm.
it goes to sleep or so that the MS42 knows to fall back. When you're looking at a scale of like 100 different rooms, there is a lot of consideration, of course, coming back down to the network side about what channel each room uses, so they're not overlapping. Are you going to be on
Hmm.
2.4 or 5 gigahertz? What type of integration do you need? Do you need control? What type of information do you want to get back in that control? So there's a lot of factors that go into a large installation like that, but the biggest thing is being able to integrate all those particular requirements into as few boxes as possible. If you can manage that, it makes everything else significantly easier. It reduces the headaches. It speeds up the installation. It speeds up the configuration. It just makes everything go a lot more smoothly.
So Wayne, putting back on your IT hat, 100 classrooms, all running Wave. How do you manage all of those wireless frequencies, and how do you manage all of that?
I was afraid you were going to ask me that question, Garth.
You heard 100 rooms and you immediately thought 100 classrooms. What would I do? Well, I mean, but that's what makes it a great question. Okay, now this challenge has come to you.
Yeah.
How do you decide as that network admin, how am I going to break that down? What are the steps I need to take? Who do I need to talk to, to make this a successful installation?
First, I think the first key to success is involving your entire network team.
Okay.
Don't let one person make this decision.
Absolutely.
It's a big decision. Involve your entire network team. They are the experts on this. I mean, there's different solutions you could do. Subnet it out. Maybe another SSID. There's different solutions you could do. Also, it's important that your network team and the tech director, CTO, reach out to Atlona support. That's a valuable support there. I mean, I love what Marshall said. We have a best practices network sheet available, PDF available for all, for that type of implementation. That's how you would do it. Again, it depends on the person, how the school's network is set up. Each network is set up differently. There's no one size fits all. There's not. And if I sit there and told you what I would do, well, that may work for my situation, but that school down the road, it may not work for them. So the key is involving the team, involving the entire team. Brainstorm it, reach out to Atlona support, download Marshall's PDF, and go from there and start knocking it out. I mean, you maybe do some static IPs to separate out by subnet. There's different solutions that you could do on this.
And a solution will need to be tailored for even the type of network equipment in the location, right? Cisco, there's going to be a few small tweaks between Cisco and Aruba and Palo Alto networks where they all have different terminology, and you need to be considerate of exactly what those providers provide as well. And so
absolutely
everything's going to be a little unique, but again, like you said, engaging the network team, getting a channel map of the property to make sure that you're not overlapping can be really helpful. Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, it really is that way with anything anymore. There are no more simple products, and there are no more simple projects.
Exactly.
Applications are going to continue to get more and more complex as these products do more and more, because the customers are demanding more and more features, right? We don't want less as we go forward, maybe less cables, as Mads was talking about earlier, but we want to expand the capabilities of our system. So it's going to take that entire team, like you described, and every challenge will be unique. Every school district will be unique, as Wayne indicated there. I'd also like to remind everybody listening in across our live stream on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Twitter, please be a part of the conversation. We'd like to hear from you. Write those comments in. We'll put them on the screen, because I've got a collection of experts here that are happy to answer any of your questions, and some of them are even caffeinated at this point.
Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers. So Wayne, let's talk about some of the challenges that you're dealing with now there at ITRG Secure. So obviously you're putting together complex systems. Are you coming up into any building season? I mean, education is known for having two very significant seasons in that summer and then later towards the end of the year. Are you starting to see plans coming together for this next year in education, whether it's wireless presentation systems or AV systems in general?
Here in Texas, we have some school districts who just passed what's called bond elections. I'm not sure how you have it in like California where you're at, or Florida where you're at, in Marshall. We have what's called a bond election. Usually bonds or school will take out a loan to build new schools, update their infrastructure, cabling, that type of thing. We have a few of our customers who are doing that. One of the biggest things is upgrading outdated infrastructure. That's the big thing right now. And so that's the big thing that we're looking at. They're looking at implementing any kind of the wireless solutions, such as the Wave. Some are wanting to get away from projectors and go with like interactive panels back here. That seems to be the big thing right now is interactive panels. Projectors they're tired of paying $200 a bulb every 6 months. I don't blame them, you know. So we're looking at that. But schools again it's all funding dependent.
Mm-hmm.
It's all funding dependent on what they can do. Unfortunately, that's the reality of the situation. Schools, you know, they need the funding to do the technology upgrades. And if they don't have it, well, you know, you're looking at outdated equipment and things like that. And it's you know, it's unfortunate, but I see a lot of school boards and superintendents saying that we need to keep up with this stuff and we need to give our students the best they can. You know? So what we're seeing at ITRG Secure is a lot of school districts, you know, going out for bond to do technology upgrades, upgrade their one-to-one devices and all that. And we want to stay on top of the game with that.
Mm-hmm. What's the most important thing? You mentioned projectors already. What's the most significant part that they want to upgrade when they're looking at infrastructure? Is it adding on to the network, making a more robust network, putting in more infrastructure? Are they putting in more wireless in general? I'm not talking about wireless presentation systems per se, but wireless accent point access points. Different time zone, and I'm running along.
I understand.
But tell me about
we're seeing a lot of upgrading infrastructures, and also a lot of more one-to-one devices for students and staff.
Okay, got it. So Mads, give us a sense of what does the education system look like there here in Denmark and maybe across Europe? What are some of the insights that you're seeing? Obviously, we're hearing from Wayne what's happening in Texas and a kind of a snapshot of the U.S. How about Denmark? How about Europe?
Well, I can only talk for Denmark, of course, because I think it's very different across Europe. You know that I know a lot of Americans, they think that the Europeans are very alike. We are in some way, but I don't think we are that much in that school system. But what I see now is that we have a few schools that are very keen on adopting into new technology. You know, we still see a lot of old short throw projectors at schools. So we're really starting to go there. And until now, most of the school have invested in just a solution, as I said earlier, that replaces the cable. So this collaboration thing is actually very new, and there's only a few schools, I would say, that is adopting into it. But what we see is that if a school in a city have adopted into to this new thing, the other schools, they copy paste. They learn from each other. So there was like one big tender out, and then they wanted wireless collaboration, and the next tender for the next school, they want the same system. So I think you will adopt quickly. But of course, it's, as Wayne said, it's about money. How many money do you have? And this is much more expensive than bringing in a cable. So it's also about prioritizing. What I think is good with the Wave is that it's very easy for the teachers to start working with it. It's not, you know, if you can open a Word and put in some stuff there, and you can do your email, you can do the Wave. It's very, very easy, because we have seen a lot of, you know, both smartboards and other interactive displays in Denmark. They're just sitting there, and what are they doing? They are displays. Then most of them have never been interactive, so it's very easy. It's needed that it needs to be easy for the teachers to start working with it, and the Wave is a very good example of that. And I think we will see, maybe not a hockey stick, we will definitely see a growing demand the coming years.
Right. Well, I think that's one of the best things about wireless presentation. We were talking about it earlier before. When you look at a scenario that allows the teacher to continue to teach the way he or she is used to teaching, but we're going to open up their frontier and allow them to move around. Maybe they teach from the back of the classroom and they're untethered from their desk, and they can see their students as they're presenting onto the screen, and then bring up the other students as well. And I think allowing the teachers to continue to teach the way they're used to, that's probably the key right there, because lesson plans have been developed over years of experience in teaching those classes, years of experience teaching that subject, understanding how little minds work as they're bringing in new ideas. You don't want to change the way teachers teach. And some of the interactive, whiteboards may have required a different way of teaching. But if they're used to teaching from their laptops, this just gives them a new way of doing what they already do. And I see there's some
Yeah,
advantage there.
yeah.
Maybe they've got lesson plans that they've been using for a long time, instructional videos. Well, they're just playing it back from their laptop now instead of that VHS, the other sources. Wayne's nodding his head. He knows he still sees a bunch of those out there.
Overhead projectors and
Yeah.
Scantrons.
Yeah.
More hands there, guys. There's lots of few more.
I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. I'm not helping your cause. I apologize. Bringing back bad memories.
Oh yes, I've replaced many an overhead projector bulb in my career. Yes, I have.
Well, we've kind of morphed this quite a bit into a lot about education, and this is the best thing about the hub. You never know where it's going to go. So let's talk about education for just a little bit longer before we sign off, right? So what's next in terms of needs for education? I mean, Wayne, I'm going to toss it to you first. Where do manufacturers like Atlona need to respond to what instructors, school districts, boards, what do they want to see?
I think it goes back to what I said at the very beginning: collaboration and engagement. These are just tools. These are just tools, and these are tools that can enhance collaboration and engagement. That's the big thing in education right now. They want students involved. They want students engaged, and they want students to collaborate. I mean, a teacher is no longer teach and you repeat, teach, test, teach. They want to get away from it. It's the teacher's now collaborator. Students learn from each other, and the data shows that over and over that students learn better from each other than, believe it or not, a teacher sometimes. Students have different learning styles, and so it's up to the teacher to bring all those learning styles together. So success can happen, so learning can happen on that. And so I see tools such as the Wave, interactive boards are a big thing right now with us. It's a big seller, and so we see tools that are, as my boss says, touchy, feely, love it. And because that's what you want your students and teachers to do. And I think that's the next big thing coming up in IT in schools.
How about you, Mads?
What I see is that I'm going a little bit above K-12 school, because I think that that this thing that where you can actually be in the classroom and you can be at home and have the same feeling. That's where we're heading, and especially for America, where you pay to go to school, you can attract people from all around the world. And of course, we also have private schools in Denmark, but it's actually free to go to school in Denmark. But I think that market, so where you can combine being in the classroom and sitting in front of your computer, and it's going to be flawless. I think that's where we're going. And I haven't seen the completely flawless system for that yet, but I'm sure it will be with us within a short time. But that's where I think the schools will like that.
Right.
Yeah, I tend to agree.
Yeah.
Really, it started as a wireless receiver, right? Just moving an image wirelessly, and you've seen the creation of moderator features and media content. Really, I think what everyone's looking for is taking complex scenarios and turning it into a simple solution, right? Let the product do something very complex, but make it appear to the end user as a very simple, intuitive thing to do. So whether that's annotation or media sharing or YouTube playing or YouTube streaming, right? I think that's the path that we're going to be headed towards, where we're just going to be continually adding value to the product and making interactions and collaborations simpler and simpler. that it's going to be more of a solutions-based product. It fits specific needs and requirements. It's not just a wireless sharing box,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
It does so
Yeah.
much more.
It
There you
does.
go.
Yeah.
It does.
All right.
Agreed.
I think on
Yeah.
that note of agreement, I think this is a great spot to end it today, and I want to thank all of you for joining us. What I'd like to do is kind of put up some contact information so everybody knows how to get a hold of you. So let's go ahead and put up the contact information so we can share information on how to get a hold of these gentlemen on the panel today. Starting with Marshall Simmons, as I mentioned before, product manager for BYOD and Collaboration. His contact information is there on the screen, marshall.simmons@atlona.com. Feel free to reach out and engage with him. Any ideas that you might have, he's a perfect person to contact. Mads from Imago Sonas, CEO and Sales Business Development. He's there at mads@imagosonas.dk. His LinkedIn information is there. If you're in the Denmark area, there's no one finer to work with. And then Wayne Fulton from ITRG Secure. He's Wayne at ITRGSecure.com, and his LinkedIn information is there. I also want to give a very special thank you to Mads and okay, there's me. If you want to get a hold of me, garth.lobban@atlona.com. You can find me on LinkedIn at GC Lobban. I'd love to reach out and hear from you as well. But I also especially want to thank the team here at Imago Sonas for hosting us today. Mads, Morten, Brian, thank you so much. I couldn't have asked for better hosts here for the show. Thank you so much. I also want to have a big special shout out to my production team back in California who put this thing on bright and early in the morning. Evan, who's our producer and technical director today, and Stephen, who's wrangling all of our social media feeds. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for getting up in the morning. Perry Sun was also in hand to jump in case any of us needed a helping hand. Perry Sun oversees the product marketing effort for the Wave product. Perry, thanks for joining us as well in the background. And for each of us here at Atlona and Panduit, thank you for watching. Feel free to click the like and subscribe button. And if you have any ideas or suggestions for our future our future hub productions, feel free to drop those in the comments as well, or to any one of us here on the screen. Thank you very much for joining us. Until the next time on the hub, keep innovating.